All right, what's going on? Welcome to another AMA with the CryptoLabs Research. Today we got Orange Financial on. Really excited about this project, about just the vision and the mission of what they're doing. But if you haven't met me yet, my name is Colin Mason. I'm kind of like the behind the scenes guy at CryptoLabs Research. But today I get the pleasure of interviewing Orange Financial. We get to dive in. So before we begin, make sure you like, subscribe, do all the fun YouTube stuff that I'm supposed to say. And with that being said, welcome Orange Financial. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Before we dive in, just give us a little bit of an elevator pitch of what Orange Financial is. What's what have you been building in this space?
Sure. So Orange Financial is essentially like a treasury, right? You can participate in the treasury and own shares of that treasury by buying our NFT. And unlike other projects, we don't want to give out our own token. We want to just give out real yield. And the best way to do that is through stablecoins. So in short, Orange Financial is a yield farming treasury that rewards its users, from its yield farming ventures in USDC. That's like the most basic, short, simple way I can put it, right? I can go to more, in depth,
definitely.
Speaking about it, but
we will.
Okay.
We will. We'll dive in. We'll dive in all the nitty gritty. Yeah, I think one of the biggest questions that we get, and we actually just got off our live stream that we do every week inside of our investor community, and one of the things that we talked about actually was like Ray Dalio's book, Principles. And it's something that we keep bringing up with our members and our investors in our community. It's just like, make sure that you have like a set of principles that you live by, a set of rules as an investor that you can kind of fall back on as you're getting into different sectors. Because it doesn't just have to be the DeFi space, right? It could be
correct
other investment sectors. But anyways, that was one of the big things we talked about today on our live stream. And so one of the rules or one of the principles that a lot of our members have are knowing who you're invested in, because I know you're doing DeFi, but the way the project is set up, it is more of a centralized element, right? And so one of the questions that always comes up is who is this guy, right? So just give us a little bit of background. Who are you? Why did you get started in this space? What's your experience? All that fun stuff.
Sure. So my name is Orange. Basically, I got into DeFi about 2 to 3 years ago, and it all started with Ethereum mining, right? After the Ethereum mining craze, I kind of got into those IoT devices. I think I first started with Helium, and moved on to Planet Watch, and I noticed there was all this, they were trying to raise funds, right? And the best way to do that was getting people to buy their hardware and participate in the network and having people work together for a common cause, right? So I realized this DeFi space there's a lot to offer, right? So I think when I first started getting into, more DeFi yield farming projects was when I invested into Strongblock. Like Strongblock was like the biggest, like at the time, where people were buying nodes, and there was like a 3-month ROI time, and there was this just ambiguity about, how the money was being made and all that kind of stuff. So, I personally started Orange Financial because I saw like a need for transparency in projects in the DeFi space. Like I had been, a Strongblock investor, a Time Wonderland investor. Time Wonderland tried doing the whole treasury approach, but they still had a token. And at the end of the day, if you have a token, people are going to suffer, right? Because it doesn't matter if it's whales that are dumping on you or if it's people joining in at the end of the project. Like having a token, having that price action kind of like, it hurts community members, I think, right? So if you want to capture real yield, you really can't have a token like that, because, how is the team going to make money? How are the whales that got in at the beginning going to make money? They're going to dump on everybody else, right? So, that's kind of why I started the Orange Financial project. So I'm just really a DeFi investor who has been in the space for a long time, and I wanted to invest in a project that was really basic, had yield farming positions, a portfolio where they went and invested in Uniswap pools, and they looked for new networks and stuff like that to participate in, and just early round staking, but safe, like blue chip type investments. And there was nothing like that out in the space. Everything had a token. Everything was trying to take some different approach to it, like saying they had a trading bot. Like there's real yield to be captured out there by providing like intro stage liquidity on yield farms. Like there's people making as low as 20% and as high as 120% for providing, intro stage yield. So there's money out there to be captured, and I noticed there wasn't really anybody doing it. So that's kind of why I got into it. Previously, I got into the space trying to see what was like the most interesting thing that was happening, trying to make a project that was capturing the most like common theme going on. And at first that was like this Polygon type meme coin project. It was based on baked beans, and it was just like Polygon staking pool essentially. But it had nothing to do with real yield. It was just this like money pool game essentially, and that's kind of like my first like intro start project. I was like, I wanted to create something that was like transparent, and I noticed these other people were creating these meme coin projects with no transparency, kind of deceiving investors. So I went out of my way to make one that was as transparent as possible. And so that's kind of like where I would say I got my trust with my community first, right? Because a lot of the investors now in Orange Financial, they're members from there. A lot of the whitelisted users are from there, and that's kind of where where I made my, trust with my community, I'd say. But aside from that, just to speak on what brought me here, it really was just because I saw a need in DeFi. There was nothing like this, and I wanted to invest in something like this. And I was already doing yield farming research 24/7. I was already looking at new projects because it's like a passion project. I describe it. I love yield farming. I love finding these new innovative DeFi projects and trying to capture that yield in any type of environment possible. It's something I've always wanted to do, right? So I there was no way for me to invest in one, so making one was the best way I could think of. So
No, I love it. I love it.
thank you.
Yeah, I think the transparency is one that really sticks out to me. Like when I think of Orange Financial and I like go through the Discord, but more especially like the dashboard, right? Like when I
Right.
go through the dashboard, I'm like, wow, like this is, and I do a lot of research. Like I do a lot of research. I dig through a lot of projects, and a lot of them are. I think scam is thrown around a lot. Like I
Right.
think that's thrown around a lot, and I think that there is some out there that have malicious intent, and then I think some out there are labeled as scams, but they're doing their best, but they're just
100%. It's hard to prove
underperforming.
authenticity is the problem, right? Like,
Yes,
I'm not going to throw out any names, but a lot of my what I would say competitors in the space, they have these utilities that they're like, oh, we make money here, but there's no way for the community to prove that. Like, you just have to take their word. Here, the community can go and they can go audit my wallet. They can go look at the transactions. They can look on DBank and see the exact positions and where they're farming. And they can go look that up on DeFi Llama and see the APR, and it matches up. So this is something that, community members can go validate that the yield is there. And I don't know any project like that. Even the trading bot projects don't go out of their way to share what they're trading because they think it's like, if we tell people what they're trading, we're not going to make money on it. So there's this whole mystery and ambiguity in the space that doesn't really have to be there. And it's not really working out too well, I think, personally. But transparency is the way to go. Even if the yields aren't like, 200% APR a year, like we're aiming to capture real yield and have no Ponzi-nomics in the aspect of it. So no giving money from previous mints or anything like that. Like, we're a closed-end fund, meaning once we sell all the 10,000 NFTs, there's zero new money that's going to come in. Like, we're done then, basically. So
I love it. And just so it's July 21st when we're recording this. How many NFTs? You said 10,000. How many
right.
NFTs have been minted so far? Just kind of, and to go off of that, kind of when did it launch? How has it been going? I guess that's kind of the direction I'd love to go into.
So
Yeah.
we first started off, just kind of advertising that we only had 500 for sale. We have two cards, the black card and the orange card. The black card was the pre-sale, essentially, like the early stage fundraising, let's say. Because personally, we think that we can't do the bulk of our advertising until we've proven ourselves, right? Early on, there's many of these projects that they have zero money, they have zero track record, and they want millions of dollars.
Right.
That's fine. That's fine.
Too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they get it sometimes, right? So we think that's, it's unrealistic, and we're nervous, and this, this to me is my passion project. I don't want to mess it up. So I think, hey man, if I'm going to do the advertising for this project and I'm going to really, talk with you, for example, like we're doing right now, it has to be after we've proven ourselves for at least a couple months. So we started in February, and we initially, had the 500 up for sale. I think we got at least 200 to 300 sold pretty quickly off the bat, like within a month. And ever since then, we've just had users kind of compounding because we haven't done any advertising since our initial mint. So all the new users and new mints that we've had since February have been organic. Like, we haven't paid for any ads yet since then. So since then, I think we are at 392 minted NFTs. So we have about 100 left, and then that's when we'll launch the the orange cards in like about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how fast they sell out. And those will be more expensive. Those will be like 300. That's the whole point.
I was going to ask that.
The black cards.
If you can give us an idea of like why would someone want to get the black card versus orange card, if there is any difference?
Is really it just price, it's price, and you're kind of helping us out early stage. You're helping us prove our track record, and we're giving you a discount essentially, like, because the black cards and the orange cards, they'll earn the same. One will just be more expensive than the other essentially, right? So it's a way to reward kind of the community for saying, hey, you're trusting us early on before we're even proving ourselves, right? So that's kind of the view with that price mentality. At first we wanted to create some sort of member benefits and stuff like that, but honestly, we're really simple here, man. We want to make it as bare bonus as possible, and it's all about the yield farming. We could say that there's like special benefits to being a black card holder and an orange card holder, but at the end of the day, if we're going to be, talking with our community, we want to talk to everybody. We don't want to just talk to the black card holders. We want to talk to the orange card holders. We don't want to treat anybody differently. And that, some projects will say, hey, we have the black card, we have the platinum card, the silver, and the gold, and they have different ranks that have different benefits. That it feels too gamified, and we have nothing gamified like that. We have no like, hey, if you buy 10, you get the special boost or something, like we want to be as simple as possible, because
which is kind of a breath of fresh air a little bit. I don't know if anybody else feels that. Maybe it's just me, and I don't want to kind of portray my feelings onto other people, but I love the clean approach. Like,
thank you. I appreciate
stablecoin in, stablecoin out type of thing, where it's you buy the NFT, you get it. You know what I mean? Like, where it's very
just
and
the
I like the
stablecoin thing
gamification
alone
type
is
stuff.
yeah.
I love that stuff. But sometimes with a project like this, I think it's a solid model. I guess
Oh
what I'm
yeah,
trying to say.
almost a
Right? Yeah.
necessity. I can't imagine, if we did this with our own token, like how would that work out? Like
Right.
we have to
Well,
put
I think
money in for our liquidity pool to keep
right.
price stability. It's unnecessary. We can operate more effectively just using a stable coin. I think the reason projects do that really is because they want to dump on their users. At the end of the day, where do the team fees come from? With tokens, right? There's a certain percentage of that mint or of the token supply allocated to the team. Obviously they're like on vested contracts and stuff like that. They're not allowed to dump so quickly, but who suffers in the end, right? The community suffers and the team gets paid. And that's the token model. I don't like the token model. That's why we've got to do the stable coins. And I'm shocked not many projects do that. I've seen some projects do where they do Bitcoin payments. But that's a great example of one, right? Bitcoin, just separate from the token in any way possible, but then they take price exposure to Bitcoin. So the whole point is that we want to minimize that, right? We want to minimize any price action. Like if we made $1,000 in a week, we want the users to fully capture that. Like that's kind of our view.
I love that. And one of our rules, remember we were talking about principles earlier today.
Right.
One of the rules, and it's not a steadfast rule because other people like the token model, like, some investors do. But a question that we ask is like, how are they paying rewards? If they're paying out rewards in something native like that, there's always going to be that incentive to sell it, or dump is basically the term that we use, right? And so if there's an incentive, if the only way you're going to make money is to sell this coin or token, like it's inevitable. And the people that get burned, like we're saying, people get burned. The people that are holding, the community, the people that are like wanting to be there longer term, they're the ones who get burned. So
exactly.
I like your model. I like what you're doing. Another thing that you said
Thank
was,
you, man. I appreciate
we're what, 5 months in, 6 months in, something like that, right? Yeah. Let's just say 5 months. And you said you wanted to, and you're still selling the black cards, and you said we're early, and we wanted to kind of incentive, or not incentivize. I don't remember exactly how you said it, but
reward,
basically you said we want to reward the early adopters. I guess what you said,
exactly.
right? And I love that, to hear something's been around for 5 months in this space, and you're saying early.
Oh yeah,
I think
we're long term with this. We're looking really long term. There's no expiration. A lot of these projects, they say, hey, you got to renew every year or something, or with Strong Block and these Thorn nodes and all these other node projects, there were these stupid renewal fees, which was just a way for the team to capture more money and to really see who wanted it badly, right? Like give an option for people to like not miss their payment, and then they, it was free money for the team essentially, right? So that's stupid, right? Our goal really is, if we, for example, sell all 10,000 NFTs, then we're sitting with this lump of cash, and we're going to invest it in as many pools as possible. And we're not going to sell our initial investment. We're going to sit there and farm as long as we can, right? We're going to try to manage the price action as much as possible. But our goal is that once we have that portfolio of, yield farming assets, that we can just let this sit for years. It doesn't really, there is no expiration in our mind, right? Like me personally, it's my passion, right? I love researching this. I'm not going to stop researching it. Every week, every month, I feel like I'm learning about a new DeFi project that's coming out in the space that uses a different financial model from the other. Maybe they're innovating on something that's already been done, or they're creating something unique on their own. And it's all about fundraising, right? Fundraising and managing liquidity in the DeFi space is constantly being looked at in different ways, right? They're trying to innovate on that, and that's really where the yield comes from, right? There's people that are saying, hey, let's try this concept. We need people to come and provide liquidity for us. And that's what we do in Orange. We go look for that need, and we look for something that's actually an interesting concept, not just a fork of something, not just some meme coin project, but something that's taking an innovative approach on DeFi. Because I think that's where the VCs are looking, right? The VCs are looking for innovative new ways to managing liquidity that doesn't hurt their position long term. So in short, yeah, I mean, I think I kind of forgot my initial thought there, but can you remind me again what was the
Yeah,
initial
no,
question?
I think I always think it always, and I have this question in our thing because people ask this all the time. It's just like, is it too late to get in, right? And it's a question that I always struggle with answering because I'm like,
Oh
well,
yeah,
let me just give you all the facts. Let me show you what's happened,
right.
show you where it's currently at. Let me show you kind of what the roadmap, I think, is another term that's overused a little bit, but just kind of what's the vision for what they're building, and then you can make the best decision for your based on your principles of if it's too late for you to get in, right?
Correct.
So I mean, it's come up like, hey, questions for Orange Financial. What do you got for me? And it's like, is it too late? So I think ultimately the question is kind of like, well, what have you done so far?
Right.
Where are you currently at? And then like, where are you going? What's the vision for what you're going to do? And I think people hearing that answer can decide if it's too late for them. So I don't know if you want to expand
Oh yeah.
on kind
So
of the
I
vision or.
definitely don't think it's at all too late, right? Because like I said, there's no expiration. I kind of remember my original thought now, which is we're gonna go as long as we can, right? We're gonna provide this service literally to the end of the time. Is our vision. If we can operate a treasury for 5 to 10 years, hopefully by then you would have had many, many, many people ROI. I would say that the people that started with us February 7th, they've already made about like $23 out of their $200 they've invested. So they've already made like 10% back, essentially. Um, in my view, if we have our community and we're fully minted out and we've already made everybody their return on their investment, we're just operating in free waters now. Like we're fully like everybody's break even. Now everybody just gets to reap the benefits, and as long as we can do that, I think that's a beneficial, environment, right? If we can do that for years after we ROI people, it's great. I think that's the beauty of having the closed fund, not just having new users coming in. Because if you constantly have new users coming in, what if yields slow down over time? What if US gets banning crypto or something like that, and crypto goes into a slum and Bitcoin's at 8 grand? There will be users who joined the project, 3 years in, that won't be able to reap the benefits of the original users that came in, when now basically, right? When we're offering it. So I think that's really the importance of the kind of the closed fund, because we want to have our user base and then focus on having them break even, right? So that then they can actually reap the benefits. So yeah, that's kind of my view. It's never too late to join, really. It's really kind of like right now in the black card stages, we're growing. Obviously, with more liquidity, we're able to provide, more diversity and more treasuries that we can invest in, more DeFi projects and all that stuff. But in short, the yields don't really change, I would say, right? As we have more users, yes, we'll have more money, but we have to give it out to more people, right? So our goal really is to make somewhere between 0.5 to 1% weekly. If we're able to make that, we're doing great in our minds, right? If we're able to earn like 1% every 2 weeks, we're doing great. And if we can do better, then great. There are some weeks that we perform even higher than that. Sometimes it'll be 2 to 3% a week, and that's all dependent on market conditions, right? Sometimes one of the projects we invest in, goes up 30-40%, and we say, hey, we had a 3 grand position, it's now worth 5. Let's sell 2 grand of it. We'll keep farming it, and we'll reward those users with the 2 grand that we just cut off from our initial investment. And some weeks like that will be better than others. But like I said, this is all really yield, right? So there's no way I can predict the market in the future. We wanted to give people, when people first came and they joined the project, they're like, what's the APR? What's the ROI?
Of course.
And I'm like, I can't tell you. I can give you maybe a projection after a couple months based on how like consistent we are making that yield. And that projection I'm giving you right now is like, you can look on our dashboard, right? You can see every week and every payout. Some payouts are 2 weeks long, some are 1 week. We call them snapshots, right? So some snapshots would be 2 weeks long, and you can see like, oh, that they made 1.5%. And then you can kind of do the math, and it's like 0.75 a week, or that time it was 1% a week or whatever. We also kind of like to have a threshold. Like, some people ask me, hey, why is it weekly and why is it bi-weekly sometimes? If sometimes the yields are low, we want to wait a week. We'll wait a week and let them kind of keep farming and then do a payout. We like to keep it close to $1, right? If it's near that dollar range, we'll send the payout. So we kind of have this whole like, just trust us. There's not going to be a fixed schedule. Like, we want to really maximize the yield, and if that means skipping a week or two, sometimes we're going to do that to try to get the best reward for users. We see other projects doing monthly payouts, right? So the fact that we're doing a weekly already, I think, is like, above and beyond.
Actually, that's one of my questions is monthly versus weekly. Was there a reason why you selected weekly? Just any thoughts?
Early stages, I really wanted to have the community engaged, right? And so if people are coming, every week to see, hey, how did we do this week, or how much did we make? You have them checking and you have them kind of active on the Discord. And I think that's really important for a community early stages, as I say. Without advertising, our growth is reliant on our community, right? Especially if we aren't doing any advertising after the mint. We haven't done any since February. So I would say that we're entirely reliant on the community right now, at least early stages. So now we're getting out and doing interviews and stuff like that, and we're going to begin advertising again. But we just want to have the community engaged, to kind of have them excited about every report, kind of like look at it and see how we're doing, and just kind of see that their money is actually performing. Because if you give somebody money for an NFT, you wait 30 days, and you're wondering how they're doing, there's no way to know like the health, right? You kind of get like that anxiety of like, hey, what's going on? And then you have people asking questions, hey, what's going on, what's happening, how much do we make? I always had that feeling, right? When I was like, hey, why is the stock down, right? Obviously, like we don't have a token, right? But when I was invested in these other projects, I'd find myself in the community always asking questions and not getting answers, right? So I feel like by giving people a report, like a health check every week or two, it kind of keeps people feeling comfortable, right? So a combination of the two things. I wanted people to feel comfortable, and I also wanted people to feel engaged.
I like that a lot, and when in these kinds of conversations, I try to like not be. I try to be as unbiased as I possibly can. So I like try to curb my excitement. But one of the things that I've actually really liked about what you've done, and now that we're talking, it's come to the surface even more, is like you market in the beginning, you get a few, you get users to come in, and then you test the product. You like don't. Okay, let me say it this way. What I see a lot is a ton of marketing upfront, a lot of hype, a lot of bold promises, and then just the performance is just like dwindles. And then it's
Right.
like you go into the community and you're like, anybody here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is there anything going on, kind of a thing? And so I think what I've appreciate about the approach you've taken is market, prove the concept, and then remarket, showing the proven concept, right? So I don't know. There's no question
I
linked to
appreciate
that.
that.
I just
No, I
I
appreciate
try
that.
to curb my bias, because I'm like, oh, like I gotta remain unbiased. But I researched so many projects, and it's the most common thing I see is a ton of hype, and
Right.
then just like it dwindles.
That all comes with
A ton of
overpromises, right?
marketing,
It's all the
right?
overpromising. And the
Right.
reason they do that is because they want to capture liquidity, right? Our goal is, we're the way we look at it, we're not looking at it just numbers, right? Because a lot of these projects that do what you're saying, they collect a portion on the mint. So they're incentivized to do that because they make money on the mint. Our project makes 0% of the mint. Like the team makes 0%. We only make money when we sell every 2 weeks. We make a percentage of that cut. And as we receive more funding, that team fee goes down even lower. I think at full funding, we would only have a 5% team fee, for example. About, and at full funding, we'd have 50% being reinvested, right? Because we have no new money coming in, so we have to be compounding constantly, right? So I think a lot of those projects that end up over promising and then under delivering, and they have a huge community that you have a lot of people in there that are upset, right? I'm creating this because I was trying to not be that upset person, right? Because I didn't want to be, frustrated with a project and, upset about the lack of transparency. So the happiness of my community is honestly so important to me. If there's members in the community that aren't happy, I'm gonna go out of my way to try to fix that. So I don't nowhere in the state that I ever want to overpromise. That's why when people told me what's the interest rate, I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know. It's honestly dependent on the market. Like, our goal, like we're gonna keep trying until we earn 1% like every 1 or 2 weeks. That's our goal. Like we'd rather have goals than tell you, hey, this is the interest rate that we're going to make, right? So I really do think that, a lot of those projects that overpromise and underdeliver, they're thinking about themselves, right? They just want to make money, and they're not really thinking about the community at large, right? Me, I can't help but think about the community because I don't want to be, I don't want those investors to be frustrated like I was, basically, right?
Yep. I like that.
Thanks.
Yeah, to go back, actually, I think one of my superpowers, and I'm hoping to get it here too, is taking a fairly complex idea or concept and then distilling it down into something that's like very easy to use and actionable. So a lot of our investors or a lot of the people in our community are looking at the returns, right? And they're like, okay, well, this project is making this percent per day, right? That's right. And then it's like, this one's making this percent per day. So it's like, oh, I'm going to go with this one. It's more, right? And I think you keep saying real yield, which is great, right? And that's like the thing that we always look for, right? Transparency, which you've nailed. And if you haven't yet, sorry, let me say this: the dashboard is public.
Yes,
the
anybody can see
public.
it. Not to members, everybody can see it. Yes.
Which I think
we had some concerns at first about that, but we figured it's all about transparency, really.
Yeah, I mean, as from somebody who's researching it, let's say I'm not in the project, right? And if I'm researching it and I see that, I go, whoa, like it. I don't know, just for me, I'm trying to remain unbiased, but I think that was a great move on your part.
Thank you. I appreciate
everything visible, everything accessible to investors and non-investors, or investors and potential investors.
Exactly.
Right? So
yeah, they can, because at the end of the day, if somebody is coming to our project and they know already how to yield farm, right, and they know already how to create liquidity pools and all that stuff, and they have the time to go and do that, they're just going to look at our wallet and go do that, which is fine, right? That's not what the product is for, right? There's many wallets that you can go follow that have yield farming positions, right? It's a very common thing. Many people go and follow wallets and they copy their trades, right? That's okay. Our product, I think, really is for, and I don't even mean to call it a product, but what we do here is really just for the people that say, hey, I know there's yield farming yields out there. I want to go capture them. I just don't feel like going there and sitting and having the time to research new projects and manage it weekly almost, because a lot of people that do it, they pick 3 or 4 projects, they put a large amount of cash, they're not really diversified, and they let it sit there for months, right? And they take price action on it because they're not converting into stable coins, and they're not really diversifying because they already have their eggs in one basket, right? That's kind of like our view with it is, how do you really diversify into like more than 10 projects without doing it yourself? There's really nothing out there.
Without
like
clicking the buttons.
Yeah,
and
there's really no way to like I don't want to call it an ETF because that's like a stock, right? So it really is, there's no way to really diversify into a pool of these DeFi services. So I feel like, yeah, our service is for someone who they know the yield farming yield is out there, but they don't have the time, or they don't, really want to spend the time to research it, or they just want to trust us to do it, which is totally fine, right? Some people just want stablecoin yield directly to their wallet, because the beautiful part is there's no maintenance. You don't have to harvest. You don't have to click on anything. There's no staking. Whoever has the NFT in their wallet gets the reward directly to their wallet. So nothing is required from the user, essentially.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I think one question that keeps coming up, and it's like, I don't know, how do I say this? How do I formulate this question? Trying to be. So we've seen projects that we feel are there's nothing safe, so it's not the right term to use, that are solid, right? We're like, okay, this project is solid, right? And they're decently transparent about their revenue streams, and then something happens and it's like gone, like it just ends. So I think, to go back to what I was saying before of like the real yield and like what you're doing, if people are like yield farming, like I've heard of it, don't really understand what's going on, and you can go to the dashboard and you can read about all these different pools that you're in. Could you do your best to just, I mean, I know you can do it, you're going to crush this, but can you just do your best of like, what do you do? Like, how do you actually generate yield? And could it all disappear tomorrow? Could Orange Financial go completely?
I would love to explain it. I would love to explain that. So basically what we do is we constantly search for APRs that are in liquidity pools. So there's a lot of liquidity pools out there that they need liquidity to provide, seamless transition between the two tokens, right? take for example, wrapped ETH and Tether on the Arbitrum network. The Arbitrum network, fairly new. When it came out, there was a demand for wrapped ETH and Tether on the Uniswap protocol. Because it was pretty early on, the APR was like 80 to 100% just for providing a blue chip asset like ETH and Tether. And you would think you're getting like some sort of shitcoin in the process, like, Pancake or, maybe Uni or something like that. But no, we're providing liquidity in ETH and Tether and getting ETH and Tether at an 80% interest rate essentially. So that's just a hypothetical example, right? That was for about like 2 to 3 months, early Arbitrum stages. It's hard to find like a really good ETH rate out there, right? That's what everybody kind of looks for, is where's the best rate I can get on a blue chip asset. And the next best thing to that is a layer 2 asset, right? So we're always looking for new networks that we can go provide liquidity for that token, whether it's the Optimism token or the Arbitrum network token. Like we're looking to constantly find a blue chip way to farm yield. To kind of comment more on the Uniswap yield farming, because I think that's the best way to like look at it without getting too complicated, because our huge portion of our portfolio is Uniswap positions. We have other ones that look at more complicated yield farming mechanisms like Velodrome, where they have the voting mechanism and they take kind of curve finances approach, where if you lock your tokens up for 4 years, you can have more voting power and you can sell that voting power for bribes. Very complicated, and I'll kind of just put that off to the side right now, but that's just an example of a more complicated DeFi mechanism that we're invested in. But to talk about the Uniswap yield farming, make it as simple as that. People want to swap from ETH to Tether and they want to have as little price impact as possible. To do that, you need a lot of liquidity in that pairing pool. And early stages, Uniswap pools will reward users with a high interest rate until that liquidity is kind of filled up. I think a nice liquidity pool would have like over $5 to $10 million. It's all really relating to demand, right? So if there's a huge demand for it, that liquidity pool might have a high interest rate until there's $20 million in liquidity. So we look for low liquidity yield farming pools, usually above like $250,000, and we go provide early stage liquidity, and we get provided an interest rate, and then we sell those tokens to USDC on a weekly basis to capture that yield. So we are essentially providing fundraising for these liquidity pools, and we get rewarded for providing early stage fundraising. And we constantly are looking for new liquidity pools and new innovative DeFi protocols like Velodrome, for example, that provide that yield for early stage fundraising.
That was beautifully said. Beautifully said. Question for you, because
yes,
what you're doing is you're running a business, right? Like ultimately, it's like you're running a business, and like any businesses, you run into issues, right? You run into problems. Have you experienced any problems since February or prior to that? And if so, kind of what problems or issues could you run into in the future, et cetera, et cetera? Is there anything that you could think of?
I realized I didn't touch on your whole insolvency point, and I'll touch on that a little bit now. But in terms of issues, no, we haven't really run into any problems or anything like that with any like stocks that we're invested in or any projects that we're invested in. I think the only issue I would say is the market, right? Like, with February and now, there's been a lot of volatility in the market, right? Prices have been going up and down. There are times that we see our treasury kind of do like $5,000 price swings like throughout the day, where we're like, holy shit, the market's pretty volatile today. That's really the only thing, and that's not something we can really like, we can't tell Bitcoin to go up, right? If Bitcoin's going down, you're gonna see the altcoin market suffer. But the good thing is that we're not short-term traders, and we're not traders either. So we're yield farmers. So we buy a position because we want to farm it for like a year. We want to farm it for a long time, until it matures in our mind, right? Like what maturity would be is either there's a lot of price action on it, and it 2x's in value. I think in February we bought a bunch of Velodrome, and that Velodrome went up to like 20 cents. We bought it at like 10 cents, and we sold half of our yield farming position essentially, and then rewarded all our users to that. But we kept our initial that we wanted to invest into Velodrome. That's like a perfect example of like, what a good trade would be. But if you tell me, hey, what's the worst case scenario of an insolvency situation, I really don't think there would be an insolvency situation unless the market really collapses. And even then, we don't have any leveraged trades. Our positions aren't leveraged. So if the market did collapse and Bitcoin went to 8,000 tomorrow, for example, we would just hold on and we keep farming yield. And Bitcoin comes back, then great. We can sell those positions at a a high cost. And I think that at the end of the day, we're at the mercy of the market. And I think the only time you would ever have something crazy like a a random insolvency thing from Project Rugging was if we were invested heavily in one project. Here at Orange Financial, we want to do as much diversification as possible. And if we're ever going to, invest in one thing heavy, it has to be very blue chip, right? Like Ethereum or, a GMX, some perpetual exchange, something like that, that is, has millions and millions and millions of liquidity, right? I would say like a rug pull wouldn't even be on the table, right? The problem I think with like many projects when they have like insolvency problems is when they put all their eggs right in one basket, and it's a risky basket, right? But they're doing it because they want to make as much money as fast as possible. We're not in a rush here, so we just want to find like the safest, best yield possible. And sometimes you can find really good, high interest yields just on ETH, right? Like on what I call blue chip assets, right? So I think that it's all about patience, and you can go see our portfolio. We really aren't like over 20 to 30 we don't even have like $20,000 of one asset. I would say I think the max we'd have is like 10 or 15 grand of gains, for example, which is a perpetual exchange. But yeah, just comment on that. The insolvency thing. No, we don't have any leverage trades. Insolvency would mean like people would be pulling out, right? When I think of insolvency, I think of a bank run, right? I think of like the FTX situation where they don't have enough money to meet customer demands. That's the beautiful thing. Orange Financial isn't a staking pool. You're not staking with us and then you can pull out your funds. You're buying like a fraction of the treasury and then you own that fraction of the treasury. Like we're not gonna, liquidate your portion or anything like that, or you can't, give it back to us. You can try to sell it on open market, right? On the secondary sales on OpenSea. And what we have seen a lot, just to comment on that a little bit, is, let's say somebody joins Orange Financial, they're not happy with the yields. They sell their NFT on secondhand market. And most of the time you have a community member that says, hey, look, a good deal on an NFT, pretty much, right? They were already buying NFTs every 2 weeks for 250 and they see one for sale for 200. They say, hey, I'll scoop it up. So that, just like other NFT projects, I would say we have the same mechanism there. If you wanted to unstake, you're not staking anything. You're buying the NFT, and if you want out, you can sell the NFT. So in terms of insolvency, we won't really find ourselves in a community run insolvency situation because the funding's there, right? So we don't have to worry about that. That's the nice part.
Yeah, we've all had those. We've all had those times where we're sleeping and then we wake up at 3 a.m. and go rush to like yeah. So I think I again, like I just like the model. Not trying to curb my bias here, but I just like the model. I just think it's a good solid model. And yeah, that's great. Let me think. There's a couple last questions for you. This has been amazing.
Thank you. This has
I think we talked about it earlier a little bit, but I want to touch back on it because it's just something, and I love that our investors ask these questions because I think it's just shows their savviness. But anybody can yield farm, right? Anybody can learn how to yield farm and they can go execute it. But again, there's a more of a centralized risk here. And so the question is like, who is this guy? Are there any other team members? Is there anybody else? Like who am I giving my money to? Sure. Do you have any other team members? Is it just you that's operating this? So are you doing it full time? Just kind of give us an idea.
Yeah, sure.
Touch back on that.
So I'm fully in control of all the yield farming assets. Like I would say I do have other team members, but they aren't yield farming team members. I have chat moderators, I have community management staff, and I have my friend Struan is on trading analysis. Occasionally I'll ask him for him to review a certain asset that we're going to buy, and he'll give me his view on that. He has a trading wallet that we fund. I think it has only like $3,000 in it. It's a very small portion of the treasury, but because we don't want to do leverage trades, right? That's not really what we're about. We're all about yield farming. But if we can capture like an extra 50 cents for each NFT, an extra like $200 to $400 every week through trading, we're going to do that, especially if it's a small amount, because Struan has that knowledge, right? So in terms of the bigger picture of things, I'm a one-man team, but in large, the community is very large, and we have at least 5 team members, 6 kind of full team members, and I'm full-time, yes. But in terms of wallet access, no, I'm the only one with wallet access. So
awesome. And then a couple other like little questions is I'm learning more about insurance with liquidity pools.
I've heard about that.
Me too. It's brand new this week. I've started learning about it. I'm like, oh, that's a kind of an interesting concept. In terms of insuring positions, if in case there's a hack or some sort of smart contract. Yeah, right. So Are you insured? Have you thought about it? Is there a reason why or why not? Just any
Sure.
thoughts on that? Just something that's
So
new to me.
I like the whole insurance concept. I think our view is if we're going to be putting a lot of money in it that we're worried about losing it, we probably shouldn't be putting it in there to begin with, right? So if most of our positions, like I would say that at least half of our portfolio is on Uniswap, which in our mind is the blue chip standard, right? If they rug, something's horrible happening with DeFi, and it'll be a really bad summer. But when it comes to insurance, yeah, I don't think we have to insure our Uniswap pools. But if we were ever to invest in something that's risky and we were going to take a large portion on it, and there was an insurance company offering it, we're totally not against it. As long as it makes reasonable sense, right? Because sometimes these insurance things are very expensive, and they're offered to very large venture capitalist firms that have millions and millions of dollars. But yeah, we're not against
it. I like it. And just last question, and I like to ask this question because I think it I don't know, I just give varying answers, which is really cool. But just is there anything that I should have asked you that I haven't asked you? Is there anything that you feel like you need to touch on that would be important? Yeah, it's an interesting question. What do you got for me?
Honestly, not that I can think of. You're really good at asking me questions, man. You asked me probably the best questions I could think of. Really, it's just in short, I mean, this is a passion project for us, right? The team isn't really like trying to milk users for money. We don't make any money from the mint. We put a large sum of our own money into advertising early stages, and we're not going to see that money for a long time. Like that's not, we're doing this out of passion, not for, a bank run or whatever, right? We're not trying to make money out of people. So no, that's really it. I mean, we want to provide a service to people that really, either don't have the time, or don't have the knowledge, don't have the experience, or you just want a passive way of participating in that space, right? Because I think DeFi's, there's a lot to offer. Eventually, we want to start offering kind of like classes and have like an educational course. We're thinking of opening like a Orange Academy type deal thing, where we kind of teach the community how to yield farm, where they can learn to see how to do what we're doing exactly. Because really, at the end of it, it's just we want to bring people into this community. So any way to do it, we're looking into it. So.
And there's such an abundance in that realm, right? It's like
exactly.
It's not like someone wins, someone like loses. It's like you can teach what you're doing, and
yeah, exactly.
I think it's great.
We're not teaching magic. Yeah, we're not trying. We're not selling you a get rich quick scheme.
Right.
It's just how it works. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, I probably should have said this at the beginning, but I definitely forgot. I really just want to dive
into
too many questions. Yeah, I just want to dive in, but we didn't get paid for this. There was no sort of deal. This is a project that we're invested in. Our community is invested in. Our community is interested to invest, and so this was purely out of just excitement for what Orange Financial is building. And so yeah, I just want to be very, very clear with that.
Let me comment on that real quick. Let me comment on that because I did not know about you guys. I had been looking on YouTube for videos about Orange Financial because I saw people were making them without us even paying them. And I found a video about Orange Financial, and I think it was Lucas it was Lucas talking, and it was the most organic video I've ever seen about Orange Financial. I absolutely loved it. He explained it so well to his community, and it was the most like from the heart type video I've seen about the project. That's what brought me on you guys. You guys had been, messaging me on occasion. You said, hey, we'd love to do an interview. I didn't want to do the interview until I was like ready to, like I said, kind of like have something to prove, that we've actually been operating, we've been doing good and all this kind of stuff, because, I think it's ridiculous to ask for people's money without proving yourself, right? So I really appreciate it, man. I reached out to you guys, I think, and then you guys messaged me recently, and I figured it was the perfect time to do a call like this. So yeah. Not paid for it all. This is all the most organic thing possible, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate this, because truly you're doing a service to the community. Because in my mind, the more people that get to participate in this project, and those people that don't know what DeFi is or don't even know that there's yield farming yield out there, they're able to learn, right? They're able to see and learn and participate, and you're doing a service to the community. So I appreciate it.
I love that. Yeah, and if you want to learn more about what they're doing, obviously go to the website. Just give us a few kind of where can people learn more about you, join the community, et cetera, et cetera. Where can people go?
Sure. The first one is orange.financial. That's our website. And then the second one would be our Discord. It's discord.gg/orangefinancial. And any questions you guys have, anybody can join in there. We can have either a voice chat, we can talk one-on-one, or we can talk over text in the community. I'm a very engaged person, so if there's people in there that want to talk with me that are watching this video that they want to have a one-on-one conversation, just like you and I are having right now, we can have it. You just let me know, you add me, you say, hey, I'm in voice chat, I want to talk, and I'll talk with you guys. So
I'd love that.
I'll see you there.
Just really impressed with what you're doing. I just,
thank you so much.
Keep
man.
it up. Yeah,
I
keep
really
it up.
appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you're interested, like hop in that dashboard too. I think you get a really good idea of like how everything flows and stuff. Like I just think
financial. Yeah, that's
there
it.
it is. There it is. So yeah, we'll leave all those links. 100%. We'll leave all those links in the description below. And if you have any questions or leave a comment. Obviously, I'm new to this YouTube thing. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, do all the fun stuff that you're supposed to do. And then if you're part of our community, part of the Underdog Investor Group, obviously, if you have any follow-up questions, like please drop them. Like make a post in our community. Ask them. We can obviously maybe do a round 2 at some point down in the future as we keep developing this thing. So
sounds good.
Just appreciate you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it. It was good talking to you.
Thanks, man.
Have a
good
great
talk
one.
with you.
Bye-bye.
I'll see you.